And you see the statues, and it's every stage of life, from small children to babies to mothers getting pregnant to mothers holding babies to even old women with sagging breasts and breastfed. That would be me without a bra. I breastfed my last child for 52 months. Okay. Because I knew I wasn't going to have another baby and I didn't want to stop. Because I love giving birth and breastfeeding babies. And that's why I love all your babies. But I saw this statue, and this is the epitome of what we want to bring and communicate about gentle birth. And to be a guardian. Who's the guardian? The best guardian for the baby is the mother and father. The person that needs to make the decisions for this pregnancy and this baby are the mother and father. But the mother and father get intimidated because you want to let your baby die? You're going to be born at home? You want to do that? This is stupid. I know how to deliver babies. You better trust me. And I'm speaking of the obstetrician. So they use tactics to make you question your own authoritative knowledge. They give tactics, but it isn't out of bad will that they do those tactics. They do those tactics because they care about the society as well. And this was how they were educated. That women have to give birth on their backs, with their feet up in stirrups. So they have to birth the baby because in their knowledge base, they have never seen a woman give birth squatting or in water or with one knee raised, hanging from the ceiling. In Mexico, women hang from a rebozo. So they've never had that concept, and most of them haven't even seen a video about it. So they don't get up in the morning and look in the mirror and say, I'm going to go to the hospital and torture women and make babies and hurt babies. They don't say that. They think in their minds, I'm going to the hospital this morning to save women from the pain of childbirth and to save babies. They have a savior complex. In Mexico, you can see big billboards on the side of the road outside of Mexico City and Monterrey, Mexico. And it's pictures of obstetricians with their arms crossed like that. And it says, we are obstetricians, we are saviors. It says that in Spanish. And so they have this Christ complex. And when you think you're God, you don't like to be questioned. But you, as the parents of this baby, have the right, which was issued by the court in Europe, that says you have the right to give birth where you want, how you want, and with whom you want. It's called the Court of Human Rights. And they made a very large document that says women the world over have the right to do this. I can't remember why. It's very pretty. My son's a professional photographer. He takes lots of photos. But I think I put it in there because of the reflections of mothers and fathers understanding and learning how to give birth gently under their own power and in their own home reflects very good parenting. So when does parenting start? When does parenting start? When? The moment of conception. And it actually starts before conception. Because you pray to God to give you a baby. And that baby hears here's the call and says, oh, and let's just see an assembly line there. It says, okay, you go to Muhammad and Ali, all right? And you go to Rebecca and Charles over in the UK. And you go to Vladimir and Tatiana in Russia, all right? And they just kind of go off like that. So there is a difference between nature and nurture. There is a difference because the child born in Russia is going to grow up in that cold climate, and the child born in Malaysia is going to be, adjusted in a different way. But what it takes to be a parent is the ability to listen. I did have a political figure in Russia in my home when I was living in California, and he was in the cabinet of Boris Yeltsin. And many times I've actually met Gorbachev's wife and his daughter, and they came and they were in my home, and this man, Russians are very emotional, and he started crying. And I said, what's the matter? Did I say something? I speak enough Russian, and I said, and he spoke out in English. It's not fair. It's not. Life is horrible because you were born in California, and I was born in Moscow, and I had to live through all of that, and you got to live here. It's no fair. You take what God gives you, and you listen, but you have to listen in a way that honors your body and your emotions and your mind, because babies have implicit communication. These babies, even though they can't talk, and even though they're in the womb, they're communicating with us. When we get so still, we can hear their voices, because 90% of all communication is behavioral, emotional, perceptual, and bodily. So the guardian of birth comes into the room and views all of that. I can know that a woman is contracting, that her uterus is working powerfully, and yes, I can see her belly, but I can sense it, and I can feel it. I can see the changes on her face, and I can see her left eyebrow go up, and her smile go from a smile to that subtle thing. I don't have to ask her questions. And never, ever, ever ask a woman if it hurts. You stupid person. You ask her, what can I do to make you comfortable? How can I please you? Speaking to a woman in labor is something that should be done very minimally. You bring her water, you bring her juice, you bring her blankets if she's shivering, you draw the bath. Explicit communication requires conscious attention. And in the birth process, we want to go subconscious. We want to remove our conscious decision-making. We just want to focus in on our bodies and that communication with the baby. Because the more we can communicate with the baby, the more the baby's going to direct everything. Because in honesty, the baby is the driver and you're the vehicle. You don't have to deliver your baby. You have to relax enough to let the baby out. Open the door, please. Anne has an automatic button in the car that opens both sides of the van. boom, the doors are open. Your bodies can do the same thing. But the automatic button is in between your ears. It's in your brain. And if you have, well, let me tell you how I see the difference between men and women. Okay. Men are like the toolbox in the garage or under the kitchen sink. And you kind of hide things under the kitchen sink. But you get the toolbox out and you unlatch it, and there's little boxes. 15, 20, 25, depending on where you bought it. In the U.S., we have Sears and Roebuck, and we go to Sears and we buy a Craftsman tool chest. My first midwifery was a Craftsman tool chest, because I thought I needed to bring 1,500 items to a birth. I was a nurse, and I thought, well, I have to bring everything that they have in the hospital, right? No. Now, what do I bring? I have one bag, and my most important thing that I bring to a birth is communication. It's communication and an understanding. I really don't have to bring anything to a birth, except my presence. But men are a craftsman tools. Little compartments for everything in their lives. Okay, here's the relationship. Oh, yep, okay. Here's the mother-in-law. Oh, better close on. Here's the children. Oh, I'll leave that open for a little bit. But when it's closed, it's closed. Here's my job. That's the one that's open the most often. Oh, and here's my friends from college. You gotta have that one. All right. Closed. All right. Here's my sex life. That's open quite a bit. All right. And so, but when things are closed, men can just kind of go la-di-da-di-da. Life is wonderful. All right. So women, however, are the van with all those buttons and all that electronics. And one fuse goes out, and the van doesn't work. It won't go forwards, it won't go backwards, the doors won't open, the lights won't come on, and you're stuck in the driveway or in the middle of a Malaysian freeway, and you don't know what is going on, and you, who are so compartmentalized, are saying, what can I do, what can I do? And she's going, okay. So you have to find the fuse that went out and replace it before the van's going to go. So how do you find that fuse? It involves your personal story. Because women, in particular, but all human beings, have a personal story. And what influenced that story greatly was their birth experience. The day that they were born. You made a decision, you made a decision, I made a decision. I was born on June 25th, 1952. They had discovered a brand new drug, and it was called Pitocin. Okay. And I was the fourth child, and my mother's doctor, she went for a prenatal appointment on June 25th. My due date was July 12th. That was my due date. My mother went for a prenatal appointment, and the doctor said, I'm going on vacation for the next 2 weeks. Let's have your baby today. And my mother was tired of being pregnant. And this is how the seduction of induction happens. I'm tired of being pregnant. I'm walking around, and I'm so hot and I'm so miserable. I have to do this for how much more time? Another month? And the doctor will say, oh, your baby's big enough. Your baby's big enough. It can come out. Right? So my mother said, okay, no problem. And she went and checked into the hospital at 1 p.m. in the afternoon and they put the Pitocin drip in her arm. There was no monitoring, nothing. And I was born at 6 minutes after 6 in the evening. And of course, I was taken away and put in a nursery in a glass box. But I didn't know this story until I sat down at a conference in 1983, and a doctor by the name of Tom Verney, he wrote a wonderful book called The Secret Life of the Unborn Child, and he gave us a meditation about growing out of an acorn and seeing our branches go up and spreading out. And that story of growing out of the acorn stimulated me to remember my birth experience. And all of a sudden, I'm on the floor, curled up into a ball, crying, and I have this screaming thought in my head, I'm not ready! I'm not ready! Stop! 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 I'm not ready! Stop! I could hear it, and I thought the whole entire room, there were 300 people in the room, and I'm on the floor writhing. And he just goes on with the lecture and kind of ignores me and, puts a blanket over me. And then hands me crayons where he asked me to draw what I was just experiencing, but draw it with my non-dominant hand. And I draw, 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 and I'm still under this hypnosis. And he picks it up in front of the audience, and he says, see this? This is a placenta. See this? This is amniotic fluid. See this? This is Harper being born. And I'm like, oh my God. You mean I remember that? I actually remember that because we have that implicit behavioral bodily sensation. And those bodily sensations were like, don't do this to me. Oh, that hurts. And it wasn't until I shots. This is my friend Lupe. And Lupe was the one that brought us to the concert. She's a Mexican. You have to, during a birth, you have to hold the belief in the direction of this condition, this pregnancy, this birth. It's normal. I don't like to use the word normal and natural, but it's part of a continuum that began with your first period. It began with your menstrual cycle, your conception, your pregnancy. So why would birth be any different from your monthly menstruation? Why? Why does it have to be? Okay, guys. I'm going to talk about sex. What if on your wedding night, just before you do it, okay, what if you're passionate, you're ready, she's ready, and the doors burst open, and the medical team comes in and says, wait! We better measure it to see if it's long enough. Maybe we better put a cup on it to see if it's hard enough. Right? What would happen to that moment? Her brain is the same way in childbirth. Yeah, I agree. It's the same. We're dealing with the same hormones, the very same things. So what you need for that first special night and the next 25 years until you don't want to do it anymore. No. My husband never stopped. You need quiet, darkness, safety, and maybe a little champagne. Because there is a grand time. Your body knows what to do, your baby knows what to do, God, what if the baby's going to be stuck? Oh my God, I haven't read about that yet. I don't know what to do about that. Welcome to the hospital. Because the nurse coming in the door just saw a hemorrhage last week, and she thinks that every other mother is going to hemorrhage. The doctor has been trained that every single mother that walks in the door is a risk. Every baby is going to not breathe, and they have to control things. Well, what I posted on my Facebook yesterday was, I don't believe in risk management. I believe in the management, the risk of management. The risk of management is an illusion. You cannot manage something that has a grand design to it. And you cannot manage it if you're not willing to say, Allah is in charge. God designed this. He designed this moment. He designed your consciousness. He designed this baby. And when we turn it over to God, as guardians, we walk into the door, and I say, these are my hands. Make them yours. This is my mouth. Make it yours. These are my eyes. Make them yours. These are my feet. Make them yours. This is my spirit. Make it yours. Allah, I give this to you. Make everything that I do be a blessing that honors you. When we do that, there's no risk management. There's now no longer risk. We have to suspend judgments and assumptions. Because you know what assumptions do? You see this word? Ass. You, me. Assumptions make an ass out of you again. Just because she's 35 in China, she has to have a cesarean section. Because the assumption is that she's too old to labor. I was on a television program in China a few weeks ago, and they asked me that question. And I said, is she too old to have sex? If the baby can go in, the baby can go out. Normally and naturally. Now, in China, you have an automatic cesarean section if you're under 18 and over 35. Under 18. That's the prime years, you know. I have attended births for 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds. They can spit out a baby. They can cough out a baby. They're built for that. So we have to suspend our judgment. We have to recognize our role of co-creating this experience. We bring our story to that room. Mother brings a story, father brings a story. Just because you can't spit out a baby out of your penis doesn't mean that you weren't born. You have a birth story that's just as important as her birth story. And that affects your relationship with your child. So go talk to your mother about your birth. And if it wasn't what you wanted, then we have a hypnobirthing person. I'm going to train you to do therapy, so you can do therapy for men as well as women. You had a birth, and that story has flavored your life. So your words are powerful. That's why I said never ask a woman if she's in pain. Because if you ask her if she's in pain and her brain says, oh, I'm supposed to be in pain. Maybe I wasn't, but you're asking me, you're assuming that I would be. So, okay, I'll be in pain. So tell stories. Tell stories and use metaphors. I'll just talk metaphors. Create rhythm with mantras in all meditative practices, and birth is a meditative practice. Rehearse it by chanting, praying, doing the prenatal yoga. Prepare your body, but more important, prepare your mind and your soul. So create rhythm with mantras. And I've had some women do, I remember one woman, she sang throughout her whole entire birth process, "The Lord is a strong tower that I go into. The Lord is a strong tower that I go into. The Lord is a strong tower that I go into," for every single surge in her body. And another woman sang a song in English, "How great thou art, how great thou art." We sang 374 verses of "How great thou art." And her baby was born to "Jesus loves me." That's why she switched to "Jesus loves me." Now she's giving birth. Jesus loves me, this I know. Okay. Her baby, she was 18 years old, and her baby was born with no arms, and feet were on backwards. And we didn't know that because she had refused any medical tests and any ultrasounds. And I quickly threw a blanket over the baby because I could see that there were no arms in the baby. There were 3 little fingers here, and just a tiny little blob and 2 little fingers here. And I prayed right at that moment, and I helped her hold her baby with the blanket over right away. And it was, I had a stethoscope to listen to make sure the baby was breathing. And after about 5 minutes, it was a long time in midwifery. That's a 5 minutes that she was talking to me. "Oh, thank you for coming. I love you so much." And she takes down the blanket. I didn't say a word. No one said a word. And she looked and she goes, "Honey, look, God sent us an angel. She has wings." She had a mantra that everything was perfect. And in her world, this baby was perfect. So even unexpected things, when you turn it over to God, it's perfect order. The universe does not make mistakes. She became the most wonderful mother, expressing herself in every way, and went on to have 5 more babies, all normally, naturally, all in water, every single one. She never faltered. She taught me more about faith, and her baby taught me more about faith than any experience the rest of my life. Because if she can have that confidence, then what about the mother that has a perfect baby? What about the mother that has, and to her baby wasn't perfect. Her baby was an angel. And just to tell you the rest of the story, she's had surgery, and the baby, they put arm extenders in, and the baby is now, she was born in 1999, so she is 13 years old, and she plays soccer, she plays a musical instrument. It's amazing. Before we leave this thought, during this pregnancy, husbands, find out, and guardians, what is this woman's safe place? Where does she go to feel this? What makes her the happiest? Does she like the forest? Does she like the beach? You know, if you ask women what they dream about giving birth, not a single woman has a dream of giving birth in the hospital with their feet on the the mother will have the idea to give birth by the ocean, on the beach. I flying 2 weeks ago today, I was at a birth in Hong Kong. And her symbols, her key phrase was the beach. And the beach with the waves. And when she got that little grimace on her face, I would just whisper into her ear and just bring your hair down. I would go, beach, beach, just beach. And immediately the smile would come out of her face. She would go to her beach. In her mind, she was over there. And that was the easy place for her to get work. So find that place, because what your mind can conceive and believe, you can absolutely believe. So, unfortunately for us today, this is just the tip of the iceberg, because there's a whole lot more. But I'm just so thrilled that we have each other. What we do for has an impact on mothers, fathers, babies, families, societies, and evolution. Changing evolution. You know, in Tehran, Iran, 100% cesarean section.
Astaghfirullahalazim.
Women aren't allowed to give birth vaginally in some hospitals. You go to the doctor on your first prenatal visit, they decide your surgery date, and that's what you get. It took 3.5 years for a doctor friend of mine in Tehran to get enough women to be enrolled in a study to do 60 water births. 3.5 years to get 60 vaginal births. So that is changing the evolutionary process. We don't want that to happen in Malaysia. I don't want to see it go up. This is one of my clients. His name is Cosmo. What's the bottom line? When the caterpillar makes the chrysalis, it becomes very hard. And it's hanging on the tree branch or hanging in the flower bush. And it's there. And when I was a child, I could see the chrysalis moving. I could see it moving. And I knew something was inside. And I ran inside and got a knife. And I cut it open to help the butterfly emerge. But if you do that, the butterfly actually has scales. If you put it under the microscope, the butterfly has scales on its wings that if it doesn't fight its way out, if it doesn't do its process of going out and lubricating the wings, all the scales on its wings, it can't fly. And it will drop to the ground and die. Babies have a similar process. And we don't see the effect of that process until we grow up and we have hypertension, heart disease, diabetes, mental illness, addictions, because I'm here to tell you that all of those things begin in the womb and are exacerbated by the birth process and the first hour. Lucy always goes with me everywhere. Lucy's not a day over 21. But the place for babies immediately after birth and for the next few days is here. Not in your grandmother's farms, or baby's grandmother's, not in your mother-in-law's farm, not in a crib, not in a cot. Do what? Oh, jaundice. Jaundice is normal and natural. And the best thing for jaundice is breastfeeding and not cutting the cord and visiting more bilirubin. And bilirubin is a powerful antioxidant. If you don't want to get cancer later on in life, don't be afraid of the bilirubin. Remember, risk management. It's the risk management that causes the problem. So just like the butterfly has an inherited biologically too does the baby. Each of us was programmed to be born. Each of us was programmed to miraculously fall to the breast and back to the nipples. And when the baby attaches on its own, it's always normal. It's always correct. We let the flowers open in the way they're supposed to open, and then we give them sunlight and water. And we come out with happy babies. I love Asian babies, so next time I'll come back with a camera. It's reframing those ideas. The Newtonian view of the world says that your body is a machine. And if we control the machine, we control the process. The quantum view is that there's something greater than us that controls the process. And we're part of it. And we as guardians tap into that consciousness, tap into that source. This statue, I've seen it in the museum in Mexico City. And when they discovered it in the ruins, they put it in the museum on its back. And an anthropologist, a female anthropologist, came and said, "Excuse me, guys, it needs to go upright because it's a squat." They had never seen a woman give birth in a squatting position. They'd only seen that. So if this is our frame of reference, then we can't get the other one like this. What would life be like if we all started from a deep sense of trust? I can trust my body, I can trust my caregivers, I will, my universe. What if we didn't, I'm going to go back to that, wherever it went. What if we were able to express our soul purpose? Do you think perhaps that we all cooperate and live in harmony? So maybe peaceful, gentle earth creates a peaceful, gentle world. And didn't John Lennon have that song, Just Let It Be? You know why he wrote that song, Let It Be? Let It Be? Because his mother was a midwife. John Lennon's mother was a midwife. And her advice to women was, let it be, let it be. Oh, just let it be. Just let the baby be. He heard that so much because the women came to her home for the prenatal appointments. Oh, just let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. So fear, almost done here. Hold it up. When a baby's born in fear, it grows up as an adult in fear. It equates survival. Oh, I have to have this. I have to have that. It's felt in the solar plexus, and it's characterized by that need for safety, protection, power, thoughts of war, safety, control. Oh, I know. Self-absorption relies on outside sources, and it says no to the